when you use rhythm as a short-term use of a pattern, it can be really effective. Not enough to make you predictable and boring, but enough to help it stick. Welcome to the Foster Your Voice podcast with me, Kristi Foster. After a 30-year career in music and theater, I never imagined I'd be coaching trial attorneys. But once I entered your world, I quickly realized how critical and underutilized voice is in the courtroom. The truth is, you don't win trials with brute strength. You win with your voice. I'll give you tools to unlock your voice so you can communicate not just with purpose, but on purpose. If you want quick action tips to help you stay calm and in control, keep jurors engaged, and inspire your listeners to action, all through the power of your voice, you're in the right place. I'm Kristi Foster, and I'm here to help you foster your voice. Hello, Foster fam. Welcome back. I'm glad you're here and that we get to spend this time together. Be sure to leave a 5-star rating and a review for the podcast if you haven't yet, and get on my weekly newsletter distribution. Not only do I preview what each week's podcast is about, but I give lots of other free resources to help you on your communication growth journey and share some of my life in a segment called Foster Thoughts. Being on my email list is a great way for us to stay connected. So go to fostervoicestudio.com/contact. That's the link, and I'll put it in the show notes as well. Now, speaking of sharing from my life, I want to just tell you a story about something that happened a few years ago. I'll do my best to get through this without laughing too much, but it's something that has just been cracking me up to the point of tears for these last several years, and I won't soon forget it. But also, it serves as a great lesson for you as a trial attorney. So, story time with Kristi. I have known my friend Cheryl and her husband Tim for about 11 years. I first met Tim when I was introduced to CrossFit, and he was one of my workout buddies. I eventually met Cheryl as well, and we had maybe more of a connection together because we were both on a weight loss journey and a health journey, and we just connected mostly online and had mostly an online friendship for all these years. We live in the same town, but we're busy professional women, and just it's hard to get together in person. You know how it goes, like trying to nurture and cultivate adult relationships and friendships is being intentional is kind of tricky. So anyway, it really delighted me when I learned that Cheryl was a foodie. Now, I'm a novice foodie, I would say, but I really wanted to start trying some new places. And I was seeing Cheryl's posts pop up about a different restaurant pop-up that was happening, or visiting chef to the Portland area, and a special event that they were having. So I reached out and asked if she would be willing to include me the next time she was going to attend a food event. And she warmly said, yes, of course. So it wasn't too long after I had wriggled my way into her dining group that she sent me a Facebook message with a graphic that said, "Take a trip down to Crescent City." And the note was, "Megan, Tim, and I are thinking about attending this event. Might you want to join us?" And I was so excited, but I couldn't picture in my mind quite where Crescent City was. Maybe at the Oregon Beach, or I wasn't sure. So I looked it up and I saw that it was in Northern California. Now, like I said, I was really eager to kind of ingrain myself with this new formed foodie group and was really wanting to create and nurture these adult friendships. So I was always going to say yes, but I needed to get more information given that this was now, in my mind, going to be an extended overnight trip for the first time with these friends. So here's how the text conversation went. Me: "So, what is the travel plan? I'm definitely interested." Cheryl: Well, we could swing by to pick you up for sure. Well, would we go down that morning and just stay overnight? Well, we usually come back after dinner. Tim will work that day, so we'd be heading down around 5:30 p.m. Now, I was excited for this potential road trip and actually felt pretty honored that they would include me in this adventure. But at the time, I was almost 50 years old and way past wanting to pull an all-nighter road trip. I did have the next day off work, so I suppose I could make it work, but ugh, how miserable. That's so miserable to be up all night in a car. I've done that before, road trips back and forth from college. I didn't want to do that anymore at almost 50. But the texting continued. Me. So, wait, I'm a little confused. Crescent City is in California, right? 6.5 hour drive down and back after a 6 p.m. dinner? To which Cheryl replied, it's at Mestizo on 29th and Division in Portland, 15 minutes from here. Now, Cheryl knows that I love doing staycations, so it made perfect sense to her that I was considering making a whole day of it, going to explore the city in the morning and then just staying over in Southeast Portland and wondering if they wanted to do the same and join me. Now, as I'm starting to put all this together, I'm just dying of laughter. I was like, I'm all kinds of confused. The ad said, take a trip down to Crescent City. So I thought we were going on a road trip. To which Cheryl let me know, nah, the chef Bonnie is from New Orleans and she's here in Portland right now. And I was just cracking up because the critical bit of information that I didn't know is that Crescent City is a term of endearment and a nickname for New Orleans. So this New Orleans chef was visiting Portland and doing a pop-up dining experience of crab etouffee, gumbo, muffaletta sandwiches. Wonderful. But I was so confused and a little disheartened that we weren't actually going on this major road trip. But this is so like what can happen with jurors. I know I'm kind of turning the page here, but in this scenario, you're Cheryl. You have all the information. It all makes perfect sense to you. All those pieces fit together. All systems are firing, and you don't even realize that you're alone in the communication road trip. I'm the jury here. You say something that might very well be common knowledge, but it isn't to me. And suddenly I'm spiraling, trying to make sense of it all, working hard to grab at context clues to piece together meaning. And my brain is working so much harder than yours just to keep up. This is why, and I can't stress this enough, this is why it's so important that you use common, everyday language that everyone can be on the same page of your journey. And you might be surprised at the words and references that seem totally normal to you, but that leave your jury on the outs. I really want you to get my free cheat sheet called Top 20 Legal Terms to Avoid and What to Say Instead. I want to help everyone take the same road trip. You can get it at fostervoicestudio.com/top20 or just click the link in the show notes. Well, thanks for letting me tell that story and laugh about it all over again. Sadly, my friend Cheryl passed away suddenly just a few days ago. So I share it with all the love in my heart for our enduring friendship, our foodie adventures, and our mutual support of one another. And just thinking of her and her family and all the people that she's impacted during the season of just disbelief and deep sorrow. So rest in peace, Cheryl. You were loved and you are missed. Hey, real quick, if your jurors look confused when you say liability, standard of care, or damages, they're not tuning out because they don't care. They're tuning out because they don't speak law. I've put together a free guide called Top 20 Legal Terms to Avoid and What to Say Instead. It'll help you simplify your language without losing credibility, so your message actually lands. Download it now at fostervoicestudio.com/top20 or click the link in the show notes. All right, back to the episode. So, one of my major pet peeves when it comes to communication is patterns. I've talked about this before, especially on my social media posts. So, be sure to follow me at Foster Voice Studio to make sure you're getting all my daily tips and strategies. But patterns just might be one of your biggest saboteurs when it comes to helping jurors hear your key points and differentiate them from everything else you say. When you get stuck in a pattern, and what I mean is melodically, you're trapped and always ending at the same pitch, going up, or when all of your phrases are about the same length and they all end down on the same note, or when you're stuck at one pitch, one registration, and you never pop out of it. Those are patterns. And when you're stuck in a pattern, it just becomes physically impossible to deeply hear and internalize your content. So I will preach till the cows come home about how important it is to disrupt patterns. Now, having said that, when you are strategic about it, there is something powerful about a deliberate pattern in your speech, like a repeated phrase. This is sometimes called ringing the bell. It's the same phrase repeated exactly the same way. It's like a theme or a hook or a parallel structure. Using a rhythmic pattern for these instances can make your words easier for jurors to remember. It can make them stick. Think about memorable speeches, sermons, or even protest chants. What makes them stick? Rhythm, repetition, intentional patterns. So when jurors hear something with a rhythmic pulse, their brain recognizes it as meaningful, as something to hold on to. It gives their working memory a hook to grab. Our brains are pattern seeking. They are on the lookout for predictability. When it can predict where you're going next, it can relax. Now, this is exactly why generally you have to avoid prolonged patterns. You don't want your jurors' brains lulled away from focused attention. You want to keep tantalizing their ears and keeping them active, helping them stay active and attentive. But when you use rhythm as a short-term use of a pattern, it can be really effective. Not enough to make you predictable and boring, but enough to help it stick. A pattern grabs attention. A break in the pattern keeps it. I'll say that again. A pattern grabs attention. A break in the pattern keeps it. Now, there are a few types of speaking conventions that really lend themselves to this sticky rhythmic repetition. Parallel structure. This is the same grammatical pattern repeated for emphasis and for helping with memory. So a couple examples of parallel structure. They had the time, they had the tools, they just didn't take the care. It wasn't bad luck, it was bad judgment. He saw the danger, he ignored the danger, he caused the harm. Can you hear how this creates some musical flow while also establishing your authority? Each phrase lands like a steady drumbeat, reinforcing logic, giving your jurors a simple, repeatable rhythm to carry into deliberations. Juxtaposition, this is the second one. This is pairing opposites to sharpen a contrast and clarify a meaning. Using this convention can really create some emotional charge and a logical kind of punch, especially when you pair it with varied pitch, one of our 5 vocal building blocks, pitch. So the first is up, the second is down. Salt and pepper. Hot and cold. Up and down. Okay, so a couple of examples of juxtaposition. It wasn't an accident, it was a choice. He wasn't tired, he was dangerous. They charted numbers, but missed the patient. Can you hear the up and the down? You can also play with word pacing within your rhythmic cadence just to further draw out this contrasted meaning. Lean into those juxtaposed words. This wasn't hidden danger, it was ignored danger. Juxtaposition activates both hemispheres of the brain, both logic and emotion, helping jurors process complexity more deeply. The third one is the rule of 3. You might be familiar with this rhythmic convention already. It's about listing ideas in 3s to build the rhythm and then land it with finality. Humans love triads. 3-part lists create rhythm, flow, and this sense of completion. So here's a couple of examples. They saw it, they ignored it, someone got hurt. Choice after choice after choice led right here. See it, say it, stop it. That's safety. It can be a little sing-songy, but it does create something memorable and it gives some closure. It really lands the point. That's the rule of 3. Now, ringing the bell, I mentioned this one before. It's a repetitive phrase that brings the truth home. It's clear, it's simple, just like the ding of a bell. Ding, ding, just really clean. It's this rhythmic phrase that you return to several times throughout your presentation. Repeat the exact same phrase, word for word, tone for tone, at key points throughout. It's the thing you want as the earworm when your jury goes into deliberation. It's the phrase they quote to each other. That's why it has to be exactly the same every single time. Here's a couple of examples. When you break the rules, people break. They took an oath and they broke it. If they cared, they would fix it. You can repeat those. Ring the bell. Okay. Mirror phrasing. This is repetition with a little bit of a twist or a turn of phrase that reveals a particular insight or a contrast. It's kind of similar to parallel and juxtaposition in that way, but maybe a little bit more sophisticated and maybe potential for a deeper connection. So, a couple of examples. Not just what happened, but why it happened. The danger wasn't unseen, it was unaddressed. It's not about blame, it's about responsibility. You see, mirror phrasing helps jurors connect emotionally and intellectually. It's rhythm plus revelation. It's that 1-2 punch of cognition and feeling. So rhythm isn't just for music. It's a secret weapon in public speaking and particularly in courtroom communication. When you intentionally build rhythm into your speech, you make your message easier to follow, easier to retain, and far more persuasive. See, that was a rule of 3 right there. Easier to follow, easier to retain, and far more persuasive. So just remember, too much pattern is predictable and causes disengagement, but too little pattern causes confusion and disorganization. There's a sweet spot. We have to be Goldilocks here. The sweet spot is a deliberate rhythm that creates connection, clarity, and impact. So just start playing around with rhythm this week. Practice varying your pitch, pace, and emphasis. Find those moments where repetition reinforces your message. And then other times where breaking a pattern keeps the listeners more alert. Because when your rhythm works, your message sticks. That's a little parallel structure for you. Until next time, keep fostering your voice. Thanks for pulling up a seat with me today and for being part of the Foster fam. Make sure you're subscribed to the podcast so you don't miss a single episode. And while you're at it, go ahead and leave a review or a comment so I can give you a shout out on a future episode. During the week, you can find me on Instagram at Foster Voice Studio, where I'm dropping little nuggets of vocal technique and leadership wisdom. You can also join my mailing list by visiting fostervoicestudio.com or by clicking the link in the show notes. I'll send a weekly vocal tip every Tuesday directly to your inbox. Until then, keep fostering your voice.